across WA. This is Spirit Drive with Matt. Thanks to Chandler McLeod Group, your mining and resources recruitment specialists. Many vacancies, apply today. cmgjobs.com.au.
Right across Western Australia, we are driving you home on the Spirit, and it is time for my next guest. She's been a media staple for a number of years now, bursting on the scene as the edgy rock chick on Channel V. But since then, she's made a pretty darn good career on television, radio, podcasts. She can now even add cookbook author to her CV. Please welcome Yumi Stynes. A very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Now, Yumi, the Zero F's cookbook. Got to keep it clean, of course, because this is commercial radio. But it's your new project. I didn't know this about you, that you wanted to be a chef. What got you down this path to begin with? It wasn't something to do with watching Jeff Jans or Huey on daytime TV or something like that, was it?
No, I think it was mud pies. You know, that sort of that delicious feeling of squishing food around and then the alchemy of turning it into something better. I think I loved that as a little kid. And actually, you know, you mentioned Channel V. When I got that job at Channel V, they have footage of me being kind of pulled out of a kitchen where I was working in a cafe. I was sort of working as a cook / chef when I got my first media job.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the end of my cooking career, but I always still loved to cook.
Well, one of your big hits, as we know, is the chicken wings, or as you call them, the vegetarian converters. What makes them so good?
I don't know. It's a family recipe that I got from my mum, who's Japanese, so she does a lot of sort of Japanese-style cooking. But she actually admits that she got it from a Woman's Weekly many, many years ago. So it's sort of a recipe that's been handed down from Woman's Weekly to her, to me, and it's evolved a bit like Chinese whispers. It's sort of changed slightly from evolution to evolution. And now I think I've got it really perfect. And I've got it so perfect that I use my chicken wings as a tool for bartering and exchanging things. So friends who are coming over, they always really hope that I'm making the chicken wings. They're that good.
I'd love to hear your difference between Zero F's and can't be F'd. What's your explanation to that?
To be honest, the actual answer is if you really, really can't be F'd, then you're probably getting takeaway.
Yeah.
But when you're down to zero, but you still have to cook, which is kind of my situation daily because I've got 4 kids, Matt. I've got 4 kids and I've got about 3 jobs. So I'm always busy, but I don't want to eat takeaway all the time. I don't find it very good mostly, and also not very healthy, and also not very cheap. So it's expensive and unhealthy. So I really, really try not to eat much takeaway. So yeah, it's when you really can't be bothered. You're like, oh my God, is that my problem again to solve? It's in those situations you want to just be able to grab something very easy.
Well, you also feature fairy bread in your book. I'm just wondering, does that fall into Zero F's or can't be F's, to be honest?
You're still making something, and if you turn up to a party with fairy bread, nobody ever complains. So I reckon that's just zero, and it's an absolute crowd pleaser.
Did you ever meet someone who messed it up so badly you just thought, you know, this actually needs to be in the book?
You know what? It's so funny that you should say that, because when I did The Circle, we did honey joys. You know those things with honey and cornflakes?
Yeah.
And I had been doing it wrong for years, and it wasn't until we did it on set, on television, and I was like, what, you actually cook them? I thought you just stuck them in the fridge and they were done.
Exactly right.
I know. So maybe there are people out there that really don't know how to make fairy bread, but also like, you know, when you think, I have to bring something and it becomes this problem.
Yeah.
Fairy bread, it's a bit like permission, you know, here you go, this is something that you can do and no one will mind and you're allowed.
Well, at the very beginning, you mentioned Channel V. Was that pretty much the best job you could ever have while in your 20s?
It was so good, Matt.
Yeah.
I actually remember, I said it out loud, but I repeated it in my mind. I am going to hang on to this job until I get fired. I am never, ever going to leave this job. It was so great. It was basically I'd get invited to parties, rock concerts and music festivals, and I'd be able to go for free. I'd have accommodations sorted, and I'd just have to be on TV a little bit for part of it.
Who could forget you, though, pashing Robbie Williams on your first day?
It was actually my 3rd day, but yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty good way to make a first impression because I didn't actually have the job at Channel V at that time. I was sort of auditioning, and so they said, "Look, see how you go interviewing a big star like Robbie Williams. You know, can you keep your cool and ask questions, or are you going to just be completely losing your mind?" And so that was the outcome of that situation.
Have you ever caught up with him since that moment, or does he even remember that actually happening?
Of course, I've caught up with him maybe 3 or 4 times since then. It was reported in the UK tabloids at the time because it was really sensational, him just grabbing some random stranger and kissing him. Yeah. But weirdly, this is embarrassing. I've never told anybody this. We were dressed up for some reason as though we were Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Ranch. So I was wearing a smoking jacket. Yeah. And at the time, I had short hair. So when in the photos that appeared in the UK, I looked like a boy. So he looked like he was leaning a boy over and kissing him passionately on the mouth. So I think it was too much controversy for Robbie to deal with at that time. So I think he was denying, that was a girl. But, I have seen him since then. I've interviewed him a number of times. And he's very gentlemanly, very sweet.
Well, that's good to hear. And we do know the man is in the country right now. He will be WA bound next week. We're chatting with TV and radio broadcaster Yumi Stynes. Her new cookbook, 0 Fs, is out on Thursday. We'll be back with plenty more right after this. Across Western Australia, this is Spirit Drive, and Yumi Stynes, TV and radio broadcaster, joins me now on the line. She's got the new 0 Fs cookbook, which is out later this Thursday. Now, Yumi, your career basically spans television, radio, podcasts as well, and we're just talking about that Robbie Williams incident on Channel V. But besides that, what's been the craziest moment at the office for you?
Oh, there are so many great moments. It's so good when you've got a TV camera pointed at you. You can't back down from dares.
Yeah.
So once I was dared to, say, for instance, do a stage dive and into a crowd, and they all caught me, and that was great, captured on TV. Another time I was dared to do a bungee jump, and I'm not keen on heights. Like, I don't hate them. I'm not terrified of it, but I'll avoid it if I don't have to do it. But the cameras were rolling. It was a live broadcast, so I had to go and do this bungee jump off the top of the crane, and I just had to do it. So the cameras are rolling. You can't say, oh, look, I don't feel like it today.
Yeah.
No, I'm not really in the mood. So I did the jump, came back. They went to break, and then they came back to me live and wanted to do the post-mortem. How was the jump? And I had secretly got a can of minestrone soup on set and gulped a whole lot of it. So they cut back to me, and then I pretended to be sick everywhere.
That's absolutely gold.
And they were all like completely horrified at the look on their face. This was so good. So yeah, there's a lot of fun we've had over the years.
I've got to also mention too, the flavour of the month, we could say, is Sophie Monk. And I believe there was a little feud that started about 15 years ago. Have you kind of buried the hatchet?
Yeah, of course. I've interviewed her a number of times as well over the years. She's uniquely charismatic, that girl. Like, people just stop and stare at her, and she's done a huge favour to Australia by appearing on The Bachelor. We didn't really have a feud, so I considered myself a pretty serious music journalist, and I reviewed her first CD, which is a single, which is called Inside Outside.
Oh, we do remember it, unfortunately.
Oh, you're the only one, Matt. Anyway, so I was just putting on my journo's hat and saying, look, it's not very good. And I likened it to eating styrofoam string. So
you were like the hard chat from Tom Gleeson before hard chat, basically.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. So, of course, she didn't see it, but her family reported back, oh, my God, you wouldn't believe what Yumi said about you on the TV. She hates your song. So Sophie, being the brave and fearless chick she is, she brought it up. She was like, hey, I heard you said this. That's not cool. Yeah. So, it was calling me out. So I love that and respect that. There was no feud. That was sort of the whole thing.
Something also respect about you, you're also not, you haven't been shy about your dealings with alcohol through your life too. Are you like someone these days like Dave Hughes and stays off the drink completely, or do you have a moment now and then for a little tipple?
I have non-alcoholic beer in the fridge. And, I don't know if you're much of a beer enthusiast, but I was. Yeah. So when you knock off, or you've had a really stressful moment and you just think, oh, God, I could just crack one open right now.
Yeah.
And I have a non-alcoholic beer, and it's still it still scratches that itch.
Yeah,
You know, I feel rewarded. I feel like I'm acknowledging that was tough, and I don't have to sort of suffer and remain in that moment of pain or whatever.
Yep.
But it's got no alcohol in it, so I drink zero alcohol. I try and avoid situations where it's foisted upon me, and just have once in a while, like maybe twice a week, I have a non-alcoholic beer.
Now, I feel too, Yumi, with your experience, you're in the right place and time to give 0 Fs, as the book suggests. But for those who are listening now who want to follow, I guess, a similar career path to you, is there still some room for some Fs to be given in life?
You know what? I mean, I think you're probably similar too, Matt. It's about never thinking that you've arrived.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is good enough. I'm just going to sit here. You know, I'm not going to keep trying to improve or air check or watch myself back or, you know, think about what I could have done better each time. So I hope that every sort of stumble is a learning experience. Every victory is just, you know, the next thing before something even better, you know.
Yeah.
So I think with, you know, young people who are listening in WA thinking there's not many opportunities, or I'm in the country, you know, it's hard for me. The world is open to you if you've got an internet connection.
Yep.
Communicate via social media and be interesting, you know, don't be boring. Have the fresh take, have the soul, like connect your spirit to things. Spirit radio. But no, connect, like spiritually connect to things and really look for the beauty and the good and the poetry in whatever your field is, whether it's surfing or gardening or cooking or music, you know, be the enthusiast.
It's great you say that with internet, because you have one of the most popular podcasts in the country too. It's, you know, it's not just restricted to what's on a microphone and what's on a transmitter. You can basically do whatever you want in your bedroom.
That's right. It's called Ladies We Need to Talk. Talking sort of to topics that women sometimes think that they talk about openly, and then you dig a bit deeper and go, actually, you know what, we need to have a proper talk about this. So some of the topics are about sexuality, health, drinking was one, and lots of other things. So we've started production for season 2. It was that successful.
That's wonderful. 0 F's cookbook also out now. This was your first cookbook. Any more in the pipeline?
There is one in the pipeline already, actually.
The bun in the oven.
It's almost cooked, actually. The feedback from this has been so good, so positive, and people get the idea. Like, you don't have to explain, what do you mean 0 F cooking? Like, they're just like, oh yeah, I need that book. I need that in my life.
Yeah.
So I've started writing one for summer, so it'll hopefully be out in Christmas.
All right. Well, the 0 F's cookbook is out this Thursday at all good retailers and online. Thank you for at least giving a few F's with us this afternoon here on Spirit Drive. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Bye.
That is respected broadcaster Yumi Stynes right here on Spirit Drive. Back right after this.